Hello, people. Welcome back to another video by your good friend, Chad Marco, the Big Anarchy. Make sure you guys attack that like button like right now and check out my other social media. And so let's have a conversation. So someone had recently asked me to make a video talking about what it's like being a Blackcel or a black incel, Vocel, a black virgin, whatever the case may be, a black dude who don't got no hoes. And you guys know I never really identified with being an incel. I never saw myself as being like that goddamn decrepit, but still, I feel like I'm still in like a similar zone in terms of like lack of success with women, being unattractive to women and things like that, just not completely without any sort of hope whatsoever. But when that guy asked me that, I started thinking like, is there really like unique differences between like or unique experiences that black guys deal with that are different from other races? And the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, like there's actually a few things worth talking about here. And as I thought about it, I realized that, there are certain unique differences that adult virgins tend to face depending on their race, as far as like disadvantages and things like that. Like for Asian men, they have to deal with the perception of them being less masculine, or the assumption that they have small penises and the tendency for them to be shorter men. Got like Indian guys, God, Lord have mercy. The whole perception of them being like creepy and just generally unattractive and weird and smelling funny, stuff like that. And I think for black men, what we deal with, like the Blackcels, what we deal with, I think is when we diverge from black stereotypes, it makes dating a lot harder for us. And it's funny because in preparation for this video, I went to the perfect source for inspiration. I went back to those old TFL videos with Kent and Oreo Man and all those guys. I started watching some of their videos and just trying to figure out like, okay, what are the problems that guys like us kind of had to deal with uniquely as black men? Like what was different about our experience compared to like other races of men? But right now I'm gonna talk about what I noticed specifically about myself. And I've talked about this before, but I think the number one, or all right, one or two, depending on how you look at it. I think one of the biggest problems with me as a black man is that I'm goofy. And I think that black women really, really do not like goofy guys. And I know that that's how I'm perceived because of two stories in particular. And I told one of them before, but I was coming out of a store and I was walking past a bench with a guy and a girl, and the guy happened to be like an old childhood friend of mine. And he called out to me and, we dapped each other up, started catching up. And he was sitting beside this girl who was kind of like an old friends with benefits he used to mess around with. And so he was introducing me to her, and she said something along the lines of, I can tell you guys have history, and I can tell like that's like your goofy friend, right? Like you're the goofy one. And I was like, yep, you got it. But it immediately, like within a minute of meeting me, she labeled me as being goofy. And another story, I was in the pawn shop and there's this woman that works in there. Now she's like white, but she's one of those like black acting white women. Like she's really ghetto. And I was kind of like joking with her. Like I forgot what we were talking about, but I said something like, can't you tell that I'm a badass? And she was like, no, you're a goofy guy. And I was like, yep, that's me. But those little moments like that just tell me how women tend to perceive me. They perceive me as being goofy, and for you guys, it's not an issue. It's not a problem because my goofiness is entertaining. It's funny. It's endearing. But for women, at best, they can find it funny, but it's not the type of like demeanor that's going to make their pussy wet. It's not the type of like way you carry yourself that's going to make girls really like you. At best, you'll be like a jester or something like that. And you guys know I don't do that to make girls laugh or nothing like that. That's just my real personality. But I think that's one of the biggest issues that I have is that I'm goofy, and I think black women in particular really, really do not like goofy guys. Now, maybe some of you guys who are of other races, maybe you can confirm this or not, but whether or not like white women are more, receptive to it, or Asian women or Hispanic. But I just know for black women in particular, oh no, no. And another thing too is I don't have any drip. I don't have swag, as they used to say. But basically, I don't really dress in a way that's hip or popular or trendy. I wear what I want to wear or what's comfortable for me, but I don't dress in a way that girls really like. I don't wear Jordans. I wear New Balances. I don't wear like Gucci or name brand clothes. I get my clothes from Walmart. Like the closest I get to a name brand is like a polo shirt or something like that. So no drip. And I know this because I remember my sister told me this one time years ago. She said, she told me that her friend said that she would talk to me. Where I'm from, when they say talk to you, that means that they would talk to you in a romantic sense or wanting to fuck you or something. But she said, my sister told me that her friend said that she would talk to me if I knew how to dress. And I feel like that's confirmation of another one of the weaknesses that I have in regards to where I'm from as a black man, where that's more, I think that's definitely more important for black men than like someone like Asians or whites and whatnot, because I think that other races tend not to be as obsessed with name brands and stuff like that. Like, especially like white guys, they can get away with wearing Kmart clothes, cargo shorts and cargo shirts and oh, I mean, I said cargo shirts. Cargo shorts and a t-shirt, something like that, flip-flops, right? Dressing like Mark Zuckerberg or some shit. But in the black community, definitely like fashion is more important, and I don't have that whatsoever, like no fashion sense at all. But yeah, I think that's another and it's funny because like I said, I went back and I watched some of those old TFL videos with, Kent and all them. And Kent in particular, one thing that you notice about Kent was that he didn't know how to dress, at least in terms of like what people considered cool. Because he was a short guy and really slim, but he would wear like big oversized like polo shirts, jean shorts, and those big hats and shit. And he liked the way really Kent had his own little style the way that I do, but it wasn't cool. It wasn't the in way of dressing. And I think when I look at that aspect of him and myself, I think we have that in common, where we don't really dress in a way that's going to make girls like us, especially me, because I wear the same pair of shoes for like 2 years straight till they falling apart, and then I get another pair. And I think also it's probably because I'll be considered somewhat of an Oreo. And, one of the other more popular TFL guys was Oreo Man. He was kind of crazy, ain't he gonna lie? He was funny as hell. He was crazy.
One thing about black females is that, and this is something that I've always knew from the time I was in middle school, if you not no street type nigga, most black females write you off as a square. if you a black man and you don't necessarily act hood, or you don't necessarily carry yourself like a nigga. Black females, they don't even cut you no mercy. They don't even offer you no pity sex. They just write you off as a loser.
But when they call you Oreo, that's basically saying like you're a black guy, but you act white, you talk white and things like that. Your mindset, just you kind of just different in terms of like the way you live and things like that. Like, it's funny because I was hanging out with Kayla yesterday, and she was talking about when she's at work, how she likes to smoke weed before work, on her break, after work. And I told her that, my little comfort when I'm at work is to eat some candy or something like that. And she just started she was really making fun of me, said it was soft and like, what? Because again, it's one of those things where it's like, where I'm from, when you want to relax or take a load off, you get high, you smoke weed or you drink or something like that. And I'm completely sober. So again, that's just one of those things where I'm kind of just seen as a square, because I come from an environment where people like to turn up, people like to get high and shit like that. And I kind of put most of that behind me, even though at most I was just smoking weed and whatnot. But and I've even had girls say like, why you talk like that? You talk like a white guy or something. And again, I just think that it's one of those things where there aren't that many black women who are going to be receptive to the type of just the overall energy that I give off. Everything from the goofiness, the way I dress, the Oreo behavior, etc. Now, this is a big part of why I think I struggle, or I'm not even gonna say struggle. I never really tried. Let's be honest. Other than the fact that I never really tried, let's take that and put that at the forefront of this conversation. But we already know that. But still, for me to have made it this long as a virgin, it's, a lot of it does have to do with other factors than that. Because there are plenty of guys who don't really go out of their way to get pussy, and they still get pussy, And but I think this is a big factor, and it's my environment. And I think this is a similar case for other black men who are like me, is how the importance of environment. And so my friends, they will always tell me, man, you got to get out of this. You got to get out of here, bro. Like, you got to go somewhere else. Like, if you went somewhere else, like, you could get bitches, bro. Like, if you went here or you went there, like, you would. And I never understood what they were saying. Because in my mind, I'm thinking like, women are women wherever you go. Women are the same wherever you go. So I didn't quite understand what they were talking about when they would tell me that. But now I understand it more. And really, you can say that I'm basically like an Oreo in the hood. Now, I don't live like deep in the hood, but where I live is, it's basically like, it's like normal neighborhoods with hoods scattered everywhere, like projects and hoods scattered everywhere. So it's like, it's just a mix of hoods and projects and normal neighborhoods. And so what tends to happen because of that is, even when you meet girls who might not be from the projects, they still have a lot of that project and hood influence, or they have a preference for guys from the hood or from the projects and things like that. And we all know black women in general tend to have the hardest preference for bad boys, which is a problem for me in of itself. But yeah, like, being the way I am in an area like this is really a no-go in terms of like attracting women, because even though I'm not deep in the hood, that's still the prevailing influence of what's cool. Even for the guys that aren't like gangsters or street guys, like, they still adopt some of those characteristics in terms of how they talk and how they dressed and things like that. So and being so far removed from that image, from that way of life, from that way of carrying myself, this just really isn't the right environment for a guy like me. And looking at those other videos of black guys who are, dope virgins, Oreo Man, Kent, Jaleel, those guys, I would imagine that they probably were dealing with the same thing, that they were in areas that were like hood adjacent at the least. And so that determined what was cool. And so I think for guys like us, we got to really go to like a different type of like more like, I don't know about to say upscale, but maybe like deep suburban, right? Somewhere like more like where our energy would be more appreciated. Because I think that with us and black women in particular, we're not going to have a lot of common interests is the thing. And it's double bad for me because I live in a small city in North Carolina. So it's like, it's just not a lot. Like when I did my Tinder experiment, I noticed like when I set the range to what would be like my city, like 20, 30 miles, ran out of women quick. When I expanded to where I was hitting Raleigh and the more populated areas, endless girls, right? So that's another thing. Like my environment is terrible for a Blackcel. Now, one thing that was refreshing for me in like the last year was it was the first time I had met girls that I actually like vibed with. And you guys remember the whole Iris situation. That was one of the first times where I had ever interacted with a girl and I felt like a vibe beyond just, physical attraction. Again, I see girls I'm attracted to all the time, but whenever, as rare as it might be, whenever I do interact with them, I always feel like there's a disconnect. And it's like I said before, being a Oreo in the hood, my energy just tends to be so different from most of the women around here. But when I was talking with Iris, that was one of the first times where I felt like a click with a girl beyond physical attraction. Now it was one-sided, as we all know, but still, it was a great experience for me because it let me know that there is a level beyond just being physically attracted to a girl that you can actually like click with one. Like you can, like I can be myself and click with a girl. I can be myself and feel like I'm endearing myself to her, like she likes me and things like that. But again, now this was more one-sided, but but I also told you guys about the girl that I met at the gym. Now this one was really special because this was like real life. This wasn't just somebody I met online like Iris. This was like somebody that I was seeing at the gym that I was going to. She worked there. Now she wasn't very attractive. She wasn't, woo, but the thing was, the more we talked, the more I started to kind of like her because I realized that we were actually like a personality match. And so we were like talking about anime and video games and music. And so we had those type of things in common. And we had some really good conversations. There were times where we talked for like 2 or 3 hours straight in the gym. Not even kidding, bro. And I swear, if she didn't have a boyfriend, I really feel like she probably would have became my first girlfriend. But I'm destined to be a virgin, right? But one of the things that was interesting that we talked about was in line with the concept of this video, and this being an Oreo, or like having a hard time finding somebody that you connect with when you're like a weird black person. Because she dealt with the same thing. Because she was telling me that she does have like options as far as like guys hitting on her and stuff like that. But she also said that she doesn't like normie guys. She doesn't like, she's not into like the street dudes and the scammers and shit like that. Like she's into guys like myself. And she said you would have to get a girl like me, basically. And so she went through the same thing where I wouldn't say she struggled, but because she was a weird black girl into like anime and nerdy stuff, she found it hard to find guys she could click with. And she understood my situation more because of that. And just like what my friends would say, she said, you got to go somewhere else. You got to get, you have to get out of this city. But like I said, she was cool as fuck, but unfortunately she already had a boyfriend. So, you know, that was a no-go, but still those experiences with Iris and the gym girl were amazing to me because again, it let me know that, okay, there are girls out there that I can have that where I can be myself and still feel like, okay, she likes me. I don't have to fake a personality. I don't have to act like a street dude or a thug. I would never do that anyway, but it's cool knowing that, okay, there are some girls that can like me for me, or at the very least, I can feel like I click with somebody beyond the physical. And but overall, I just think like this is one of the problems with being a Blackcel is that it's gonna be very difficult to find girls that you click with because, and I'm not saying this to you know, man, there's so much about like bashing black women and I'm trying to avoid that with this video, but I think black women do tend to be normie as fuck. In terms of just going with like popular black culture and things like that. I think black women are the least receptive to weird, quirky, unusual type guys unless you have like some type of big plus. Like a guy like me, I have to be famous or rich or some shit like that. Or just get really, or be like super attractive or tall. Like I don't have any big plus to make up for my behavior or their perception of maybe like being like a weird, goofy guy. Now, in terms of like family, because I'm not exactly sure about other races of guys. One thing that I just noticed about myself that differed from other guys' stories is like, I would see guys who would say things like, you know, my mom is disappointed that I don't have a girlfriend, or she wants me to get married or wants me to have kids and things like that, or their dad wants them to get married and whatnot. Like they feel ashamed about being unsuccessful with women because they know that their parents want that for them. I haven't experienced that. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that my mom, she would love to see me having some success with women. I think most moms do not want their sons to be incels or lames or anything like that. I think most of them would like to see their sons be, you know, responsible, but also successful with women in some way, shape, or form. Like there's one moment that stands out to me. And there was this time where we had pizza delivered to our house, right? And it was just like pretty girl. And so I went out there to get the pizza. And I remember when I came back in the house, I caught my mom looking out the window. And I'm like, Mom, why are you looking out the fucking window at me getting the pizza? And I think it was because that was one of the few times she had ever seen me like interact with a girl. I think she just wanted to see it because she's like, I never see you interact with me. So I think like on one hand, my mom is kind of starved of that, of being able to see her son have any success with women. And I also, but on the other hand, I think she also understands that it was a good decision for me not to, chase after women. And because where I'm from, we have so many examples of young men who go out and they get girls pregnant, or they end up with a lot of baby mama drama, relationship drama. We see that all the time. Like, that is the norm. And so I think that's why my mom doesn't care that much, because she recognizes that more than likely, if I was that type of guy, then I would be dealing with those same problems that she sees other moms, sons going through. And I think she's thankful for that in some sense. But like I said, I think it's a split feeling of, okay, well, I'm glad he's not out here chasing out the hoes and making babies and getting put on child support and shit like that. But I would like to see him, have some success with women. And, but that ain't gonna happen no time soon. Oh man. And as far as my friends, I never had anybody like cut me off or give me too much shit for it. I've told my friends I was a virgin since I was like 14. And yeah, like that was just something that they always kind of accepted about me, that I just was a virgin, and I'm a weird, goofy virgin, and I'm not gonna change who I am to try to get bitches. And they just accept that. They know, look, when it's time to get hoes, don't bring E-Man. But I never got shit for it from friends, from family. But I do think in terms of like when I was growing up, amongst my peers, yeah, they would make fun, like peers in terms of like guys I went to school with, like, yeah, they would make fun of you about shit like that. But the people that I was cool with, they never cared enough. If anything, they would just give me encouragement, like, bro, you could get hoes if you tried, or again, just, you got to leave the city, you got to go somewhere where girls are gonna be feeling you. But that's basically like my unique experience as really me specifically, Volcel, but as like, let's say like a nerdy Oreo black guy virgin. That's my unique experience and what I've noticed that's kind of different compared to what I see other races talk about.